Welcome back. Steve Price in for Peter Credler. Now, I defy anyone who watched TV news across Australia last night and again tonight to not be completely shocked by what they saw in those school marches, school kids leaving school to go and march in favour of Palestine, marching for Palestine. Happened in Melbourne yesterday, outside Flinders Street Station, then they marched up to the State Library. Sydney today, where, again, kids left school, and to his credit, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns said it shouldn't have happened. Now, they're protesting in solidarity with Hamas-run Palestine. I don't believe that most of those teenage children there had any idea of what they were doing. And it seems to me that these protest marches are being organised by university radicals. Joining me to discuss this, and I'll prove that to you in a moment, is Executive Manager of Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, Joel Burnie. Joel, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Steve.
I want to play for you some audio that Sky got today from some of those school children at the Sydney rally, and I'd like to get your view on it. Let's have a look.
I think it's only fair that everyone should get an equal amount of education, and people in Gaza and Palestine are all being bombed and not being able to get education. So it's only fair if we come and take time out of our time to educate, to protest for them.
Not only just because I'm Palestinian, but because I'm human. If you say that we should be in the schools, that we need the education ourselves, I agree, everyone should be educated, but so should the people in Palestine.
Joel, I'm not sure they know what they're talking about. We saw it again yesterday, I think probably even worse in Melbourne, where they were chanting from the river to the sea. What's your view of schools letting children attend these rallies? And secondly, some of these school children have got to go back into classrooms where there are Jewish students. Now, that's going to make them feel very uneasy, if not unsafe, right?
Well, I think that the Jewish community is reeling from record high levels of anti-Semitism since one of the worst massacres ever perpetrated against a people occurred on October the 7th. So in Australia, the Jewish community has witnessed over a 500% increase in anti-Semitic incidents against our community. And then to see young, impressionable students, high school students, going to the lengths of taking a day off to be drip-fed exploitative propaganda from people who are older than them, and to spew genocidal hatred remarks such as "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," just adds to the difficult nature that Jews find themselves in. To hear such young people say things like Hamas is doing a good job, it penetrates deeply into the psyche and the hearts and the emotions of an already petrified community in the Australian Jewish community. And the idea that somehow that these young kids can be exploited by the pro-Palestinian campaigners and radicals, as you suggest in your opening, is quite disgusting.
Joel, I was filling in on Peter's program 2 weeks ago on a Friday. You'll remember what happened on that Friday. There was a synagogue that was attacked by Palestinian protesters. Has it gotten any better since then? Because the general Melbourne community and the Australian public in general were absolutely shocked at what happened on that Friday night. Is it gotten better or worse?
Well, it certainly hasn't. That incident hasn't happened again, so I don't know whether or not you could suggest that that means that things are getting better. But I guess you could argue that things are not getting worse. But then again, for a number of the Jewish community to see the type of vicious rhetoric that's coming out of such a young protest, and seeing so many young high schoolers come out in Sydney and Melbourne over the past 48 hours, certainly doesn't necessitate an opinion that things are getting better. The scenes that we saw in Caulfield 2 weeks ago on that Friday night, still send chills down the spine of regular Australian Jews. The mob came into our neighbourhood, and I think it's quite one story coming out of that protest, Steve, was that the police were telling some of the Jews on the other side of the road, yelling at them to go home, and they said, "We are home. We're outside the front of our house, outside the front of our house of worship on the Sabbath." And hundreds of angry pro-Palestinian mobsters come into the centre of Jewish suburbs in Melbourne to freak everyone out. This is a terrible situation. And unfortunately, what's happened on the streets of Melbourne and Sydney over the past 48 hours is just another example of it.
Joel, we've not seen Israeli protests. We've not seen Jewish Australians out there protesting, except there was a bloke today who attempted to walk past that demonstration in Sydney with an Israeli flag. Have a look at what happened to him.
You're holding my hand. Take your hands off me. I will walk. I will walk peacefully. Do not touch me.
Now, he's emotional. We don't condone him laying a hand on that police officer, but there seems to be two rules for either side of this equation.
Well, there's no doubt that our protesting tactics are quite different from the other side. So you'll see a number of Jewish gatherings which have been rather solemn and emotive in tone, maybe some candle vigils, maybe some singing of songs, but also looking forward and our hearts and minds focused on those hostages that are in Gaza and on those 1,200 people that unfortunately perished on October the 7th. So you will see the differences there. But look, in terms of a double standard, seeing one lone Israeli flag amongst hundreds of Palestinian flags on the streets. You've seen in the motorbike convoys from Western Sydney into the Jewish areas of Coogee and Bondi. Hundreds of Palestinian flags have been flown here, there and everywhere. But now this is the second scene that I've witnessed over the past couple of months where the lone courageous pro-Israel person with a flag is hastily taken away by police. So these scenes are again quite troubling to Jewish people, and the community is concerned that at some stages there are examples of that double standard.
Joel Burnie, thank you very much for joining us tonight.